The divine who created us all cares enough. I'm not special.
Mhm.
Let that be really clear. There's nothing exciting about me. If there was ever a candidate of somebody to be left at the bottom of the canyon and abandoned, it would have been me. I mean, I had failed so many ways. It wasn't even funny. I'd attempted suicide twice. I mean, I was the last person that would have been worth the effort. And my knowledge is, if the divine cares that much about me, then I know, no matter where you've been, no matter what's happened to you before, you're worth it. And every effort and thought and movement toward taking control and learning to love and be loved, including loving yourself, is worth it. I was thick-headed. In August of 2007, I was big dog, making C-suite, this, that, making a lot of money, but I was also a $3,000 a week cocaine addict. And that is a ridiculous amount of money, stupid stuff. You can have a life of purpose, a life of prosperity, and a life of joy, and you can create it by serving with your divine gifts. And the key is you can have it today.
Welcome to the Beautifully Becoming community. This is a sacred space for honest, faith-rooted conversations that encourage healing, inspire growth, and help you step into the person God is shaping you to be.
Hello and welcome to this very incredible episode. I am delighted. I am super excited to have this very incredible guest. Honestly, guys, I don't think you've ever heard me this excited. I have the incredible honor of having Kellen Flukiger. Kellen is a C-suite executive board member. He's a speaker. He's an ultimate catalyst for personal transformation. He's a leadership mentor. He's a life and business coach. And guess what, guys? He's an eight-time #1 Amazon best-selling author. Kellen is the host of the Ultimate Life podcast. Honestly, guys, the Ultimate Life podcast is an incredible podcast with way over 600 episodes. Hundreds of thousands of listeners across the world whose life has been transformed just by Kellen's incredible message of love, motivation, and transformation. Kellen has worked with state governors, senators, ministers, CEOs, award winners, Hollywood actresses, policymakers, especially at higher levels. And just lastly, he is a performance and breakthrough coach. He is also a musician and a producer. Kellen is a lover of people. Coming from decades of depression, addiction, life-threatening illness, and near-death experience, Kellen has become an ultimate catalyst to help motivated people melt barriers, move mountains, and mobilize their superpowers to achieve their truest desires. And honestly, guys, I'm not going to stop here. Kellen has featured in CBS, LA Talk Radio, Chess Enterprise, the Canada Institute. Oh my goodness, the list is endless. Honestly, I am so delighted to have you.
Well, I want to thank you. And that big, long list of things, it's all true. But you know what's really important? What's really important is you here now, because right now you are making a choice to turn your story and your adversity into adding good to the world. Like we all add carbon dioxide because we breathe, but you are making a choice to do the labor of love that is a podcast, all the work, finding people and carrying a message and being a beacon of light. And I want to honor you for that, because it's the important work. And all the list of stuff is, it's whatever it is. But the real message is one of love and of hope and of lifting each other to better, to be better, to do better, and to make better stuff in the world,
Yes.
Matters here is the truth of the message, that it doesn't matter where you've been. I love the name of your podcast because, you listed all that stuff, but the truth is 15 years ago, I'm 66. So 15 years ago in 2007, if you had met me, what you would have met was a self-absorbed, high-ranking, high-functioning depressive, cocaine addict, useless big dog who was making more money than he needed to make and had more money than brains, and a completely different person. And so, yeah, there's a lot of achievements that came during that time, but nothing compares to the joy that I get now by helping people discover, develop, and serve with their own divine gifts.
Wow, wow, wow. That is super, super, super incredible. I just really want you to, talk to us a little bit more about, how to achieve your ultimate life.
So one thing that happens is somebody that gets a big intro like that, it's like, well, they've had all these good things. So let me just tell you a little story about that, what happened to me. I gave you that sort of flavor, but I was raised in a two-parent home, middle class-ish, born in California in the US, a lot of favored circumstances. And my mom was pretty young when she got married, and she had an idea that kids should behave a certain way, and it was connected to religion. And the way she enforced that was with discipline that today in the US and Canada at least would be felony child abuse. And she used to beat me particularly, a lot. And what that did, and I remember like getting dressed in high school for PE in the locker room, right? We changed clothes. I got dressed last because I didn't want anybody to see I was black and blue, that kind of stuff, because I was embarrassed, because obviously there was something wrong with me because I got beat all the time or I wouldn't look like this. So anyway, what that did is it left me with real feeling of self-loathing and a mix of that. I wanted to prove I was okay, and I needed to live into the truth that I wasn't okay, which was what I experienced all the time. And so during the years when I left home at 17 until I was 52, which was 2007, those 35 years, I never talked to anyone. Wow. I lived with this depression. I rode this roller coaster of big success and then sabotage, and big success and sabotage. So I married and divorced 3 times, and I created big career success and then trashed it, and created it again and trashed it, and in and out of rehab and all this stuff, because my real feeling was that I was not okay. And until 2007, and then a couple of events happened in the end of 2007 that completely changed my life and the direction of my life, and put me on the path to where I am today. Wow. Which is nothing like I was doing before. So it didn't come because it was all magic. It came through the fire of, self-loathing and addiction and abuse and all the other stuff that finally, helped me understand what the real purpose of life was, and put me on a path to choosing to add good to the world like you are.
Wow, that's so good. Honestly, that is super incredible. I was looking at one of your posts on Facebook, and it was saying something about rocks. It says rocks are integral part of growth. They can be a stumbling block and they can be a stepping stone. So I just really want you to talk to us about that in depth.
Well, I just finished a book in December. It'll be out in a month or so. And the name of the book is Forgiveness, a journey of courage to a place of freedom and power. And what I meant by the rocks are a stumbling block is we all have stuff that happens to us. It might be just because things happen. It might be because someone was cruel and unkind, and even someone trusted did something bad to us. You told me a little bit about your story, some abuse that happened to you. Those things happen. And when they do happen, we have a choice. And the choice we have is we can be a victim of those things. And that looks like being perpetually mad at either God or the world or the person or situation, and raging that it shouldn't have happened, which it probably shouldn't, but if it did. And if we stay mad and stay angry or frustrated or hurt or withdrawn or any of those negative things, then it remains a stumbling block. And whenever it happened, it keeps having power today and tomorrow and the next day because I keep being destroyed or hurt by this event that happened. Or I can say that happened, it did whatever it did to me, but starting today, I'm going to get over being angry. I'm going to take control of the levers of my life. I'm going to change some things, get the help I need, read the books, get a coach, see some counselors, do something, because I'm not living there anymore in that situation. And so one is a stumbling block where it keeps hurting me as long as I let it. And the other is a stepping stone, which says, okay, I've learned this, I've taken some control, and I'm moving forward on my own terms. So that's what I was thinking about when I wrote that.
Oh, that is so good. I really liked it because it really spoke to me a lot. Is there basically an ultimate life? That life where I am expressing my truest, authentic self? Because in this episode, we're talking about how to achieve your ultimate life. Is there an ultimate life?
So there is. And one of the things that people think is, I have to have all this, whatever your list is, this amount of money, this amount of health. I have to have all this stuff, and then I'll be happy. So I have a podcast like you do, and it's called Your Ultimate Life. And it's funny how it started. At the beginning of this whole worldwide pandemic stuff a couple of years ago, someone called my wife, who's my business partner, and her name's Joy, of all things. But anyway, and ask her, does Kellen have a podcast? Because lockdowns were just starting and they wanted something to listen to, and they knew that I did speaking and stuff. And we didn't have one, but Joy said, yes. And then she came downstairs and said, we have a podcast. So I said, okay. And I created Your Ultimate Life. That podcast is a daily short 15-minute podcast. And the premise is how to create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy that you create by serving with your divine gifts. So it is based on that. I believe it's 100% true. You can have a life of purpose, a life of prosperity, and a life of joy, and you can create it by serving with your divine gifts. And the key is you can have it today. It is not, I don't have to do all this and then I'll be happy over there. If I have this amount of money or this amount of health or this amount of whatever, joy is a choice all the time. It is always a choice. And so for example, I'll use a silly example. I can be ready to go do something and it snows. Like where I live, it's up in the frozen north in Canada. So, there's snow from November to April, right? Perma snow in the yard. And it snowed yesterday, really, it did. And we're about sick of winter. And so I can decide that the day's rotten and everything's not okay and I can't do whatever I want to do because it snowed. And then I have an energy of being miserable and sad. Or I can say, hey, it snowed. That's okay. I'm going to do this and this. And I can bring the energy of joy, of creation anyway. And that's my choice. I mean, the snow is just the snow. It did whatever it did. How I live into that is my choice. Now, I realize that's a tiny thing. And who cares about snow? But the same thing is true with things that hurt us. And I have a really good story. About 10 years ago, I got a dog, and I haven't been a dog person. About 14 years ago, I guess, 2007, November. And it was a puppy, and I'd never had a dog before, and it was a dog somebody else didn't want, so we took it. And on New Year's Eve in December, we were playing, and the dog bumped into a speaker stand that had a speaker on it, like an audio speaker in the house, and the speaker fell off and landed on the dog's toe and broke all the metatarsals, and the dog was howling, and it was terrifying and screaming. And so on New Year's Eve, we found an emergency vet. We took the dog in, and they did surgery, and they did everything they could, blah, blah, blah. But they told us, we don't know if it will heal correctly. He may, have a limp. And so as the years went by, he developed a limp when it was either cold or when he ran too much. And so there was a permanent marker from this event. And I felt responsible because I was roughhousing a little bit too much. And so I felt awful.
Oh.
And the dog, he wasn't having any of this awful. The dog had a limp, which is a permanent mark of some accident or bad thing that had happened to him that I caused. I didn't mean to, but did. But the dog wasn't having any of it. The dog chose a life of joy and dealt with the fact that he limped when he ran too much. And so even when you or me have permanent damage, as it were, from some event that happens, that doesn't prevent us from having joy, just like my dog did. And that dog, he gone over the Rainbow Bridge and he died a couple of years ago. But that, you know what I mean? He was always an example because like that wasn't going to change his life because he decided that. Nobody else just, it was the dog decided that. And we all know dogs. I mean, they're like that. But we can do that too. So that's a story that I have that always reminds me that joy is a choice.
Wow, that is such an incredible story. Super true. I just want to bring you back a little bit because I'm just asking out of curiosity, right? What was that aha moment that made you start up what you're doing right now?
I was thick-headed. In August of 2007, I was big dog making C-suite, this, that, making a lot of money, but I was also a $3,000 a week cocaine addict. And that is a ridiculous amount of money, stupid stuff. So what happened in August of 2007, I came home from work on a Friday night. I have 10 children. 4 of them were living with me. I was single again for the 3rd time. And I was getting ready to go out and party for the weekend on Friday. It might have been till Monday or Tuesday or something. And all of a sudden, I felt like I needed to turn on the television. Now, that doesn't sound like anything, except I realized when I went to do it, I didn't know how. I'd had somebody come from the store and put in big stuff, but I wasn't a TV watcher. So I picked up the remote and I'm like, I don't know how to turn on the TV. So I asked one of my kids to turn it on, and one of my daughters turned it on, threw a remote at me, dummy, and left the room. And it landed on a program called Intervention. Now, you may not know what that is. It's a reality TV show where families stage an intervention for people in the family that are busted in some way. And the protagonist in that show was a high-ranking executive with a cocaine problem. So I watched about 10 minutes of, me, not really, but me on the screen. I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching this crap. So I turned it off and I went and did some other stuff. And then I was ready to go out to party for the weekend. And then I felt compelled to turn the TV back on. So I did. And this time I knew how. And so I turned it on and that program started over. And no, I don't have a recorder. And no, it wasn't on the schedule. And no, it can't do that. But it did. And I'm like, oh, crap. I guess I'm supposed to watch this. So I watched the program and it went really badly. The guy yelled at his relatives and didn't accept any help and denied he had a problem and, the drill, right? But it freaked me out enough that I didn't go out. I went to bed. And when I went to bed, I went to hell. And what I mean by that is I went somewhere, it felt out of body. And I was in like a theater and I was watching the whole parade of events of my life go by really slowly and it was all focused on suffering, the suffering that I had experienced as a kid, up through all the suffering I had inflicted on everybody else with failed relationships and my drug problems and lying and everything else. And after a long time, a voice in the dream said, "It is enough." I woke up and the sun was shining in the window, which was weird because the window faced west. And I got up and I realized it was 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So I'd been somewhere for nearly 18 hours.
Wow.
I got up and I said, okay, I think I've been invited to change. And I had no idea how to do whatever, but I threw away all the stuff that I had, probably $1,000 worth of stuff. I threw it away and I quit all the drugs that day. And that was only the first part because that got me sober, but it didn't do anything else about the self-loathing that I felt inside that was the real problem, because that's what got me there in the first place. That happened 2 weeks later. So 2 weeks later, I hadn't quit the work that I had yet, even though I knew I was going to, because I had to change my whole life and I didn't know how to do it yet. But in the position I had, because I was, big dog, blah, 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 I used to get all kinds of free stuff. So people would give me free tickets to this and, because people wanted to be nice to Kellen because I made big decisions. But anyway, one of the things I got were 2 free tickets to see Yo-Yo Ma. Now, if you know classical music, you know who that is. And if you don't, you don't. But in the classical world, it's like, he's this amazing world performer. And I didn't want to waste this other ticket. So I'm like, okay, because I'm single again for the 3rd time. Now I'd be ashamed to waste his ticket. So I asked in the groups that I managed who likes classical music. And some lady in one of the groups said, well, I do. And I looked at her and I said, have I ever given you anything before? And she said, no. I said, okay, fine. See you there. So I gave her the ticket and we met at the concert. It was spectacular. And now you got to remember, I'm 2 weeks stone cold sober at this point. And halfway through the show, this feeling came over me that I recognized from 2 weeks before as kind of otherworldly. And a voice in my head said, you need to marry this woman. And I said, you're insane. I said, I've screwed that up 3 times officially with some other messes, but it's not happening. Later that night, we were backstage because they were, backstage passes. And the voice came back and said, yeah, and you need to tell her tonight.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, not happening. She can have me arrested for harassment and, not happening. No. But you don't win those arguments. So I did. And it went about like you would have expected. Are you out of your mind? Like, what are you thinking? Are you crazy? What are you talking about? But over the next 2 weeks, she had her own set of experiences. And so 2 weeks after that, she resigned from her career. I walked away from millions of dollars in contracts.
Oh, wow.
And we walked off into the sunset together. And 3 months ago, we celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary.
Whoa, that's good.
Now, as amazing as that story is, it wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't anything. It was, hey, dummy, you don't know how to do this. Let me help you. That one. It was kind of like that. And then to her too, she had her own set of experiences. And the reason it's important is she was the angel that was sent to help me deal with depression and self-loathing. I had never talked to a soul.
Wow.
I'm 52 and I'd never talked to anyone. She found me people to talk to. She helped me figure out how to be a person, how to tell the truth, how to have a friend, how to be a friend. And so those 2 events constituted what I call my divine invitation to change my life. And we had to do all the work. It wasn't smooth and it wasn't easy, but that was the turning point. And so since that day, I walked away from everything I'd ever done before and started over.
Oh, that's such a powerful story. That's so incredible. That's such a powerful story. And that just brings me to, this particular quote. It's saying that one of the deepest desire in a man's heart, in the life of somebody, is the desire to be loved. Do you want to share anything in that regard? Because everybody has that deepest need to be loved unconditionally. So
we do. And that was a thing I did not. That was one of the things that, I didn't tell you the fun part. My wife's name is Joy. Like, you can't make this stuff up, right? Okay. So one of the things that Joy taught me was what that was, because up till then, with my family, my mom, and the relationships I had before, everything was conditional. It was always fear. Well, if this happens, then this. There's nowhere safe. And so my answer to that was to retract and to hide in myself and do this whole battle alone. And I didn't know what having a friend, I didn't know what loyalty, I didn't even know what those things were. I knew what the words meant, but I didn't think there was any truth to that. So the experience of having someone say they would go with me, like I've asked Joy a bunch of times, like, what on earth possessed you to walk away? She had a great job and career, to walk away from that and off into the sunset with a drug addict. Like, what were you thinking? And she said, I don't know, except I knew to the core of my soul it was the right thing to do.
Wow.
And so that, every time anything gets difficult, that breathtaking choice.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like the core, the anchor. It's like the divine who created us all cares enough. I'm not special.
Mhm.
Let that be really clear. There's nothing exciting about me. If there was ever a candidate of somebody to be left at the bottom of the canyon and abandoned, it would have been me. I mean, I had failed so many ways. It wasn't even funny. I'd attempted suicide twice. I mean, I was the last person that would have been worth the effort. And my knowledge is, if the divine cares that much about me, then I know no matter where you've been, no matter what's happened to you before,
Mhm.
you're worth it. And every effort and thought and movement toward taking control and learning to love and be loved, including loving yourself, is worth it.
Wow, this is so powerful. Like, this is so powerful. Then I just want to know, like, what would you tell your younger self? Like, looking back now, your younger self, like maybe 20, 25, 28. What would you
Oh, my
tell your
word. It's funny because I remember those days like it was yesterday. I remember where I was living. I remember what I was doing. I had been divorced the first time. I was living in a little house. I had a bunch of child support payments. I was trying to figure out you know what I tell him? I would take that young man in my arms and just love him and let him know it's okay. Just keep moving, make choices, own your life, stop living according to what everybody's telling you. We live in this thing where we believe, I call it the Witot fungus, WITOT, and it stands for what I think others think.
Mhm.
We live with this disease, and everyone controls us because we think we're supposed to this and supposed to that.
Mhm.
So what I tell myself then is to be authentic, to be yourself, and quit worrying about what everybody else says, because that pain, that need to have approval, external, validation and all that stuff, that controlled my life so badly that I destroyed it until I quit doing that.
Wow. So do you have any recommendation, like some of your books, any of those recommendations that would help any of my listeners?
Every single thing I've ever written is from this place of beautiful broken me to help you figure out who and what you are. So which book, that would depend on what you're doing and where you're at. So I'll tell you a little bit about this one. It was a book I finally wrote about my own life, Tightrope of Depression, my journey from darkness, despair, and death to light, love, and life. That has the stories that I've told you there. Now, when I got this done, I thought, I'm never going to write any more about myself. That's it. But the minute I got done, I realized, I'm just getting started. We need to talk about the day-to-day ongoing challenges. So then I wrote Down from the Gallows, the truth, the myth, and battles of a creative with depression. Right? And then there's a third book in what I promise will be the end of that trilogy, which will be out in February of next year. So about a year from now. And then I wrote a book, you read it in the bio, 10 years after that event that changed my life, I had another unexpected event where I died in 2018. So coming up on 4 years ago, my wife and I went on a cruise, and we'd never been on a cruise before, and I contracted a fatal illness. I got home, I went to the hospital, and my heart stopped. I died.
Wow.
And I had a near-death experience. I had 3 conversations with God at the door between life and eternity. And that spawned a couple of books, Meeting God at the Door.
Wow.
Conversations, Choices, and Commitments of a Near-Death Experience. And then I wrote a book about how to tell your own story, because lots of people like you, like me, we know in our hearts that our story needs to be told to help other people, but so many people, they don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? And so I wrote a book about how to write a book called The Story Arc, Practical and Persuasive Magic for Speakers, Authors, and Storytellers. So it depends on where you're at and what you want to do. And there's a whole bunch more. I wrote some books on meditation, and I wrote a business book called The Results Equation. And, go look on they're all on Amazon. So go look at it and see what Sounds, feels right. I don't know. This question, look, one of the most important things that I failed to learn until I was way into my 50s was that learning to love yourself is the most powerful gift you can give yourself. We walk around, we talk about ourselves and to ourselves the way we would never talk about a friend. We say negative things about ourselves. We blame ourselves. We stay viciously critical of ourselves in private. Learn to look yourself in the mirror and look in your own eyes and say, I love you, and mean it, and live into that truth. Because if you loved yourself really and deeply, you'd treat yourself better. You'd be grateful for every good thing you do, and who you're being in the world would completely change. So start there. Start with learning to love yourself no matter what. That's the last thing I would give you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kellen. Oh my goodness, that is so powerful. And then tell us where we can find you. I will put the rest of the details on the show.
So that's easy. When you have a weird name like Kellen Flukiger, you can't hide. The only reason someone can't find me is if they're not looking or they're spelling my name wrong. There's only 2 Kellen Flukigers out of 8 billion people in the world, and the other one is my son. So you can find me if you want to. You can connect with me on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. You can find me on Amazon, on Google. I can't hide. So it's easy to find me.
Thank you so much, Kellen. Like, I really learned so much from this particular episode. It was just as if you were speaking to me directly. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I want to end with honoring you for the work you're doing, the labor of love, the choice you've made to take your story and use it to lift and bless the lives of others and add good to the world.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for spending this time with me and the beautifully becoming community. I pray today's conversation reminded you that your journey has meaning. Your process is sacred, and God is still at work in you.